when they are consuming your minds and your thoughts and your dreams, from the angels to the demons and to the mysteries unseen, there is no need to worry. There is no need for dread. It's just time to discuss the thing at the foot of the bed.
Good evening, and if you're just tuning in, you are listening live to 105.3 out of New Orleans, Louisiana, and you're also, if you are watching, the thing at the foot of the bed. We are in our new permanent time slot. We will not be moving. We got Zachman here already, and Dave, I'm going to introduce him. You guys already know if you've watched the show, but welcome, and we'd love to see your comments or your questions. If you want to join in, like Zach is, head over to UFO Paranormal Radio Network, either the YouTube channel or the Facebook page. We can see your comments, and we always love to have you part of the show. And we decided, since it was our permanent spot and we got the bed theme anyways, and Dave's got to get up early for work the next morning, we're going to turn it into a thing at the foot of the bed jammy party. So grab your favorite snack, your something to drink to wash it down with. And let me tell you a little bit about myself first, and then I'm going to hand it over to Dave. My name's Lorilei Potvin. I am a host on the network here of two shows. Monday nights, I've got the Angel Rock from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And here I co-host with my amazing co-host, David Hanzel. I am a Canadian clairvoyant medium, crystal Reiki energy healer, Akashic Records practitioner, spiritual teacher and mentor, and registered nurse. And I'm now going to hand it over to Dave.
Hi, everybody, and hi, Zachman, and hi, Jane. We see you sticking there. Jane from Central Louisiana. Kick butt.
Yes.
I am David Hanzel. I am a spiritual medium. I do investigations, which I haven't since COVID, but I do haunted investigations, and I am a channeler and channel angels, do angel writings, all kinds of things, mediumship, whatever. It's just a lot of fun. And we are here today. I guess Lorilei and I, we always try to have like a subject to start out with, because me and Lorilei will go all over the board. Whatever you guys want to say, we will jump in. So please, by all means, throw in your 2 cents worth, because your 2 cents is worth $1 billion to us.
That's right.
We're going to talk about glitches in the matrix. And I know some people believe it. Some people don't believe it. Some people are on the fence. I'm on the fence. And but there is some stuff that me and Lorilei were just talking about. Some of it you just can't say no. You have to take it at face value. And that's what most of us in the spiritual and paranormal world do. We do, a lot of it is this, they're experiences that happen to us, and they're so strong. They're not made up. I mean, we actually see these things. So I'm not going to doubt anybody else who actually sees these things as well. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I want to tell everybody too, I forgot to mention, we are on Roku. Our show isn't yet. We're talking about it, but we do have a channel for the network. Some of the shows are already over there. If you want to find it, you have to go. I don't have the code for you guys. Sorry. So you have to go to the Roku channel store. You're going to look up UFO space P as in paranormal. There's going to be quite a few selections that come up. You're going to look up, you're going to be looking for UFO space paranormal and United, I think it's United Public, and I think it's Network. So, sorry, I was reading Jane's comment. So yeah, check that out, because more and more of the new hosts and older hosts like myself, I've been around here for a while. And this network's been around for 20 years. So it's all over. We're growing. So check it out, because many of the hosts are going to start also streaming over there. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. So I was reading Jane's comment, and if you come up and you see your name, Facebook user, I did try to set it up so it tells you what to do. So it'll show your name. So if it doesn't, please just give us your name. I'm going to say, I think that's Robin Haffern. I'm from Haffern Paranormal. If I'm wrong, Robin, let me know.
You're a psychic. You should know these things.
Ah. Um, so Janie says, love your subject today and your interactive forum. She says, so unique. We thank you. We love doing this. And like I said, when Dave and I were talking, okay, are we going to move into this spot? Because we have an amazing show, one of the biggest ones on our network. It's on Wednesdays and Thursday nights, and it's called The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. So they'll be up after us. So it's a perfect opportunity. What we talk about kind of flows into what they talk about. So we went for it. So we thought, let's turn it into a jammy party. Anyways, on to exactly what we're talking about, the glitches in the matrix. So I'm not real, you know what? I'm kind of all over the map. I haven't even had a chance to talk to Dave about this. Spirit was taking care of me over the weekend. I'm telling you, the stuff that they dropped in my lap. I had my elbows up in resin. If you know me, I love to work with that medium, but it's very messy and not good for a brand new phone. By the way, if I sound like I'm choppy or glitchy, we are getting a foot of snow where I am in Canada right now. We've hardly had any. Let us know. I will actually pop my phone in onto my tripod. I'm all set up and I'll pop right in if the signal will work better that way. Let us know. So when I was looking at stuff while I was in resin, quite a few near-death experiences came up on this specific YouTube channel. I'm going to find the name. I should have wrote it down. And he used to work in Hollywood, this guy. And he just interviewed Billy Crystal. So he's got some bigger names. And then it's called Next Level Soul Podcast. But some of the near-death experiences I was listening to were incredible and really putting a different spin on how we look at things as humans. That I'm getting to glitches in the matrix. But then it came up, and I don't ever watch things like this. He had quite a few different channelers on there that were channeling and explaining. Now, they didn't get into the glitches in the matrix, but the way they explained how energy works and possibly the dimensions and what have you, it made it a stronger possibility for me. But like you said, Dave, we can't prove or disprove this unless you witness it with your own eyes. But one thing I'm going to ask you about, because, okay, so what I'm seeing, and it's not just once or twice, and it's a group of people seeing like a bird just sitting there in midair, like not flying, or a plane, like it's just stopped, or like it's a whole collective of people. And I'm seeing this more and more. So what do you think about that? Like, what do you think causes that?
There were a couple of them that were on the up and up, and then there's a lot of copies out there. And that's why I always tell people, do research,
Always.
There are some that I know are copies, and I know that they were CGI'd, and I know that they were inserted in there. But there are some that are not. And there's I'll try to find it. There was a particular one where the bird hadn't stopped in midair. But the bird was doing odd things. It was like it was caught in a loop for some reason.
People too. I saw people doing it too. Like I sent you a couple with people.
One with the people, the one I did some investigating on that one. I can't disprove it, but I still can't get to where, like, the main part of it, like to look it up. So like I said, I'm not a naysayer on it because I know that it exists. I know I've had it happen to me. But let me give you some food for thought real quick. And so I'm going to read this real quick, and then we'll talk about this too. So glitches are events that can only really make sense if we accept the notion that our reality is actually a kind of simulation, obviously. They often seem like analogs to the effects or errors in computer programs. That's what people are calling a glitch in the matrix. But here's the thing. If your belief is in an all perfect creation and everything, there would never be a glitch anywhere. But this brings me to something else, though. I do know of, and I subscribe to this theory. I'm going to call it a theory just because there's not scientific evidence. So if it's scientific evidence, I have to call it theory at some point. That the world world is what we see is there's tons of different worlds, tons of different dimensions right next to us. That I believe is so absolutely true. And actually scientists actually know that too, that there are dimensions. Now, if as we go through this life, we go from dimension to dimension to dimension to dimension. So if I want to own a restaurant in this life, eventually I'm going to keep moving over dimensions into that dimension where that restaurant is owned by me. And I'm going to try to get there somehow. I'll get drawn to there. And so I think sometimes in the glitches, what we're doing is going into a dimension, seeing something that exists only in that dimension, and then going back into our dimension again where it doesn't exist anymore, but we remembered it from that one. Does that make sense? It's kind of like the Mandela effect, the actual Mandela effect where we thought he died. What if a lot of us switched over dimensions for some reason on the earth and then went back to that original dimension? And that's why we go, wait, we were just in a dimension where he didn't die, and now we're back in the dimension where he did die, and some people stayed in the dimension where he didn't die. And so that's the way it goes. The weird thing is we can exist next to people in another dimension. That's the odd thing that really freaks me out. And to throw some more fuel on the fire.
I got some stuff to add. So we got, guys, if you're Facebook user on Facebook, please just let us, if you're from Facebook, just pop your name in so we can address you, because somebody's going, we've got lots of comments. Hello from ATL, interesting conversation. Another Facebook user says agree. I can't disagree with this, but I did write, because this, again, not putting anybody on a pedestal, but they made so much. Hi, Michelle from Australia says good day. And I think I said hi to Linda, Faith Inspired Transformation. If I didn't, hi, welcome everybody. We're glad to have you here. So, but what I found was so profound, because usually I don't listen to channelers. That's just not my thing. And the first one that came on, and please forgive me, I can't remember your name, but she was channeling a collective known as Theo. And Theo, she's been around since the days of when Seth first started channeling. For those of you that have followed that back in the 60s, somebody first name was Jane. I've lost the last name, forgive me. And
I know all this.
Sorry?
I know all of it.
I knew you knew, but our people that are listening to us. Hi, Shannon. Glad to have you here. She said greetings. Okay, and Michelle's saying, pretty sure, I think I've changed timelines. Okay, so as I was listening, there's some pretty profound statements. And I know when I shared it with like-minded people, two of them got they weren't impressed. I got where it was coming from. So it'll be a topic for another time. But the host, Alex, of this hot podcast I mentioned, asked questions while this woman was in trance. And her voice changed, the way she talks changed, and even her demeanor. But as I listened to them, one was channeling, I can't even say the name of it, but it was a group of angels, she claimed. Another woman was channeling, not all at once, these were all different episodes. A woman named Michelle was channeling the Arcturians, the Council of Arcturians. Now, the interesting thing is, these podcasts were done months apart. So could these people have met each other? Possibly. But they were all pretty well saying the same things. But the one thing I wrote down that I found very profound, give me a second. I gotta find it. Sure. Here it is. Because I'm really fascinated by dimensions and timelines and how we can switch. And I know Dave's on the same page. We've had many conversations on air, off air, on each other's podcasts, because you do mystics too, which we forgot to throw in there on your own. And okay, so this is what I wrote down. And this is from one of them that channeled. It could have come from one of the near-death experiencers that spoke too. They were all really profound, really down-to-earth people, but putting in layman's terms, and it made a lot of sense to me. Anyways, what I wrote down was, all dimensions in time occur in the now moment. Thus there really isn't anything such as there really isn't anything such as a past life. Because the host, what's a past life? And I have to preface this a bit because it kind of goes along with what you're saying, Dave, is that people, human beings, call it a past life. And we know this, we've said it many times, right? Past, present, and future all happening at the same time. There is no time on the other side. But I think with being, okay, that's going to get a little kooky, but this is where we do the weird. Okay, we've got so many multiple dimensions and timelines and what have you. And it's been said that there's a version of ourselves in every one of those timelines. So to me, yeah, maybe there's a version of ourselves back in the caveman days. Maybe there's a version of whatever. But to me, the way I took that, it's all happening at the same time. And the reason why I'm giving credence to what you said is they also explained, one of these channelers, how we switch back and forth between timelines. So you are very right. We could have a whole group of people. But my point I have to add is, so how does the picture come in? Because you were talking about, I know what you were talking about, but people may not have. Were you referring to the woman? It was almost sounded like Groundhog Day, that she had lost her best friend, or there was a death, and then she went through all this stuff and she woke up the next morning. It was like it never happened, but she found a few pieces of evidence that something had occurred.
You told me that one. But
yeah,
didn't you? Yeah. There was like the video showing me where the woman was constantly turning her phone around. That one's hard to do.
that one, yeah.
I saw this bird, it kept flying in a certain thing that birds would fly when they're flying to another state because of winter or something. It just kept repeating itself, going back over and over. Maybe the bird's crazy. I don't know. But now I'm going to say something that is really kind of funky. And this is, so you guys, if you're hearing this is funky. But so most of you know that I had a near-death experience. I had a couple of them, but I had a big near-death experience, and then I came back, so on and so forth. I had QHHT done, which is quantum healing hypnosis therapy. One of the things that happened is, this is why a lot of people kept telling me I was a walk-in, which I don't know, nor I guess I don't really care. It doesn't affect me either way. Mm-hmm. But the strange thing that happened, and I don't know if I told you, what was weirded out is when I had that, there's a part in the feeling where I wasn't going back to the past, and I started crying during it. And it was because I was mourning the loss of myself, because they were saying in another timeline, I didn't make it through the coma.
Okay, that makes sense. Mm-hmm.
But in this timeline, I did. So in another timeline, there are people thinking that I'm gone, but I don't know how many people, and that could happen. And how I can back that up is, years ago, my best friend Jeff, he was dating somebody, and I didn't see him for a very long time. And I walked into a bar one day, and I was talking about Jeff to somebody, and they're like, "Oh, you didn't hear Jeff died?" And I said, I was so upset. I was like, "Oh my God!" So for like the next year, it was about a year, in my head, Jeff had died. And everybody that kind of knew him had said, yeah, he died, whatever. And then he walked into the bar one night. And I went, wait.
Wow.
Self, I am really seeing these spirits clearly right now. And I asked him, I started talking to him like, he's like, "Hey, Dave." I'm like, "Hey, Jeff, what's up?" We just sat next to each other, and I was kind of shaking. I was
like, "Are you sure you're not Lazarus?"
And I asked him, and I told him, I said to him, I said, "Jeff, I'm really sorry, but I thought you should know that I was under the impression that you had died last year." And he goes, "No, I didn't." He goes, "I was gone for a while." I said, "Okay." And then we just never really discussed it much anymore. I kind of put it up to maybe people just kind of, gossip. They hadn't seen Jeff in a while, so somebody assumed he died, but they were saying how he died and everything. So that could be something that happened, that we glitched, I am a strong believer that some of us that's kind of like what deja vu is, I think. Because
that's why I put them all together. I did, Dave.
Yeah.
What you guys, so you don't, if you don't know what, hi, if you're in Facebook, let us know who it is. So, because it keeps coming up, Facebook user, please just say it's so and so. But I was going to say that's why I put it deja vu, Mandela effect, and then glitches in the matrix. And just so Sandra, hi Sandra, anybody that's listening, don't worry if you happen to miss the episode. We love when you're here live, but if you can't watch live, there's always a replay on Facebook, on YouTube, and then anywhere where podcasts or talk shows are carried. Our whole network is carried, so you can always find us. Hi, Elizabeth. Sorry, go ahead. We want to hear to you guys if you've had experiences that you think or you feel it was glitches in the matrix or anything like that, right, Dave?
Yeah, exactly. Can you throw Zach Mans up there real quick? If I ever cross,
I'd be happy to.
That is Zach Man. That is of course you would say that.
We're gonna read it in case somebody's hearing it. So
Zach Man says, if I ever crossed a version of me from another dimension, the first thing I would say to him is, "What's up, handsome?" Which, by the way, is what we should all be saying to ourselves if we ever run into ourselves, because you're supposed to love
how about
yourself.
in the mirror? I'm enough and I'm worthy. Remember that, guys.
That's where I think the word doppelganger comes from. I think because I believe in doppelgangers, and not just like, oh, Dave, I saw somebody at the grocery store who looked just like you. Okay, no, we there's human beings that look similar and all that, but doppelgangers literally are us in another, maybe a different, little bit of different personality. Doppelgangers could be jumping a timeline and running into yourself someplace. So I believe that.
One thing I want to add. Oh, sorry, Dave. I was going to add with doppelganger. In our previous home, we had 4 main spirits. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to add this very quickly. Now, it was labeled a doppelganger, but is it really? Because I think this was more a mimic, if you will. And there's a difference because, like you said, a doppelganger from another timeline, right? But there was a female shapeshifter spirit in the previous home. And it always happened at Dell. And it would be like 3 a.m. in the morning. And I remember one night he went upstairs to make a sandwich and our bedroom was in the basement. And Dell, he's been to a gazillion more concerts than me, and he could hear a pin drop. So he's upstairs grabbing something to eat. All of a sudden he comes flying down the stairs and he goes, "Did you just come upstairs and smack me across the head twice?" And I go, "Oh my God, no." I said, like, first of all, you would have heard me. Second of all, why would I do that? And third of all, I've never hit anybody in my life. I go, "Why are you asking me this?" He goes, "I was on the counter making my sandwich and the cupboards were up here, right?" So he had his back turned to anything. He goes, something came up and smacked him. Sorry, not in the back of the head. It was the left shoulder. I digress there. Left shoulder. Smack. And he got hit so hard, his head hit the cupboard. He turned around and he goes, "It was the exact identical you. The hair in the back, the clothing, the height, everything." I go, "Okay, so what did this fake me do?" He goes, "You just kept walking. You turned the corner. And when you turned the corner, you went downstairs to our bedroom." He goes, "And then as you went to turn, it disappeared." I go, "So now I know how to disappear?" I was being facetious, but he knew. But I guess in his own logical mind, like, how could I come upstairs and why would I smack him across the shoulder, right? So I would call that a mimic. Would you not?
Yeah, I could. Yeah, I would call. Yeah, I would say you could consider that.
Or me in another timeline was mad and thought, well, I'll just jump into the other timeline and smack him twice and jump right back out.
There's so much. There's so much out there we do not know. And the cool thing about the age we're in, everybody, is that now these aren't new things. These things have always happened, but now people are getting understanding of it and investigating it more, which is
and
really
talking about it.
Mm-hmm. I was going to tell you, what was I just going to say? It was a story, and I'll remember in just a second. Oh, go ahead till I remember if you want to.
Okay, I'll read chat. Yeah, that always happens. I find if I keep talking, eventually it'll come. So I'll keep talking, just cut me off. So Shannon here, my mom's best friend was telling me one day that she ran into me at a store. This happens to me all the time. It doesn't matter what city I go to. I saw you. I know I saw you. So anyway, she says she ran into me one day in a store and she had an entire conversation with me. It wasn't me though. I was home.
Then that,
Mm-hmm.
look
And she
into
said
that
that,
more.
she adds, so just gonna add this part. She says she has known me my entire life. If she believes she had a conversation with me, I trust her. So yeah, she had a conversation with you somehow, some way.
I wouldn't say that. You know what else too? And besides doppelgangers, everything else, the law of polarity, if anybody knows what that is, the law of polarity, which is everything's got an opposite, of everything. Sometimes you have to think our human selves, who we are right now, could have a opposite polarity self in a life as well. Because we can dual life at the same time. We can have more than one life at the same time. We can actually be on the same planet in the same existence at the same time as another person. And I can tell you how I know that proof later on. But I think that we could have, like, I'm really nice and sweet and I'm a medium. There could be another David running around in another life.
Axe murderer.
Because all the things, I know that's scary.
I could never see you like that. That's why I said that.
all the things that we wanted to do when we grow up that we didn't do could still be being played out. Like when I was younger, I was a musician. So I was in bands and I was doing all this stuff. That David may have gone on to do that. Or I was David. I was in theater when I was younger. I was in theater a lot. I wanted to be that really bad. There could be a David out there as an actor in another one, just like that. So who knows? It's a really cool, interesting subject, and it'd be great if we could prove it science. That's the one thing I like, is I think one day science and spirituality will come together. And then because every other freaking life form, it's together, but not here for some damn stupid reason.
I think we're getting there with quantum physics. And so Carrie Landock says, that's what I was thinking, Lorilei. You astral traveled from a different time and space, but I will tell you, and I think I got to go along with what you said, Dave. I just had this conversation with a good friend of mine that we know, that I said in one of my messages too before the show. And we were talking about, what did we think we were going to be when we grew up? What did we dream of? And it was really funny. And I said, well, we really can't compare. And again, guys, throw in your comments here what you think, because for me, I've never been, I'm not, being sexist or anything, but I've never been the typical little girl that you hear about dreaming about that wonderful wedding and the dress you're going to wear and all this stuff. And I never really dreamed about who or what I was going to be. The only thing I mentioned to my friend today was I was horrified when I was a little kid, thinking when the year 2000 came and how absolutely disgustingly old I would be at the age of 35. Then I did the same thing, thinking about 65. I'm going to be 58 in August, so it's getting pretty close. I don't know. What about you? Like Carrie's, sorry, Zafrius, please forgive me if I get your name wrong. You said, I can't keep up a conversation with yourself. And you say you have so many brain parts. Well, sometimes those things happen too. What are you thinking, Dave?
Well, and I think I told you this story. Back when me and Lorilei were both in the same group, we'll call it spiritual Facebook group, years ago. And there was somebody on there who also left there. They didn't know much about me. And one day we were talking, we were just messaging on Facebook one time, and I was talking to her, and she said, we were trying to figure out what happened to me, because my near-death thing kind of threw me for a loop, and trying to figure out stuff. And she had said to me, David, it feels like you came back here for something, and you're living a parallel life right now. And I was like, really? And she says, yeah. She goes, and she's looking, and she goes, you're living the parallel life of a Tibetan shaman. And then
I remember that.
And I said, let me turn on my camera. What happened was, prior to this, I was overwhelmed with buying, purchasing, and finding anything that was a prayer flag, singing bowls, yaks, llamas, the mountains, snow, goats, everything like that. I bought prayer flags. They were all over my room. I had everything. And I turned it on and I said, look at this. I said, I was compulsive buying. And she said, see, I told you, you're connecting in. And another person too, before that, had said that part of my near death was shaman sickness, which I totally agree with. I didn't know what that
Oh,
was at the time, and I had the classic shaman, not the hit by lightning, obviously, but all the things that happened, even in my dreams, having the soul torn apart and all this other weird stuff. Long story, shaman sickness is it's brutal, but you come out of it okay. But
mhm.
that was weird too. So that's why I say I can't ever disbelieve things like this because I personally have an experience with it. You have those experiences as well, don't you, Lorilei?
Oh, good Lord. You know what? As I get to know certain people, I think Jane's still in the chat, and I do know her. And I think it was something I'd shared on the Angel Rock, even Jane, as I call, is Jane still here? She leaves a comment. Um, but some of the stuff I have said, if you followed, like, say, my show in here for a long time, because I mean, I'm an open book, and some of the stuff I have talked about, I could not make this stuff up if I tried. I have had strange stuff. I know you and I had a conversation a couple years ago about where you were walking and, talking about how did you feel. But the one thing, as I was thinking as you were talking about it, and then I'll get back to what I was talking about, Dave, was you look entirely different than before your coma. Like, you really do. Like, it's almost like your body shape has changed so dramatically. Wouldn't you
Oh yeah,
agree?
yeah. I look younger than I did too
Yep.
before my
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah,
Yep.
I look different. I don't know what all that means, and one day I'll probably play with it and see where it goes.
Mhm.
But yeah, that is absolutely true. We
So
do look
with
different.
that,
And I
oh, sorry,
go
go
quick,
ahead,
yeah.
Dave. Sorry. You guys know I have a bit of a delay, like I said. So if it gets too choppy, if you're just joining us, let me know. Because I don't purposely talk over Dave, I promise. So
Okay.
I've had such weird, strange things. Like, there, I am writing 3 books. That's on my to-do list this year, to finally get the outlines into book format. Now, the third one, what made me start thinking about writing books, for example, and we're getting a little bit away from glitches in the matrix, but are we really? Okay. Same as I had Lana Sackwild on a couple weeks ago. She does all lucid dreaming. So I checked out some of her free stuff. I started, remember, Dave, we were talking about this last week on the show. We were practicing. Well,
Yep.
I mentioned about the profoundness of it. I had another profound lucid dreaming moment at the same time as a close friend of mine that now lives in Mexico. We awoke at the exact same time and we have a little group that we've put together on Messenger because we work together, a few of us. Didn't look at my phone, didn't anything. I was smelling baking bread, and I literally in my dream woke up and went, like, I didn't wake up, but I became lucid enough to go, okay, who's baking bread? In this scenario where we are in this dream, we're not baking bread. Where is that smell coming from? So I woke myself up, and then I found out that my friend woke up because she felt like she couldn't breathe, that she was underwater. But it was so strange. How do all these things happen? That's what I'm saying. Like, we're getting glitches in the matrix. I have seen a video, again, I originally saw it from Nuke's Top 5. So I can't say these were glitches, some of these things I've shared. I'm going to get back to the nursing thing in a second. But unless it was a trick of the camera, this lady is rotating and she's showing, as she turns in front of a church, her face changes into an old woman. Okay. With nursing. The reason why I'm writing the third book and collecting stories, mainly of nurses, because we're the ones that are at the bedside as people transition back home, as I call it. And we see incredible, incredible things. I can tell you, working nights on one of the floors I worked on, I had 60 patients, and after we took report, so the evening shift, for people that don't know, Shannon, you'll know what I'm talking about, but we leave report for the next shift so you know who's doing what and what's going on. And I would usually go check all my patients after nowadays nurses don't quite so much do this, but I used to have to pour all my medications. We called it pouring, so setting it all out, mixing all the IVs and whatever. But what I would do was I would go check on my patients before I did that, just to make sure everybody's in their bed, they're exactly where they're supposed to be, and then what? Normally, I would have started down the right hand side of the corridor, went to the far end of the hallway, and came back up. One night, I came out of report, and again, I have had these gifts my whole life. I didn't know what it was. I walked into the last room I would have checked and watched this poor little old man keel over and have a cardiac arrest. Now, if I had done my normal thing, wouldn't have been there. He didn't end up living, but just the fact that I knew to go in that room immediately. Another thing I'm going to share very quickly, and then I'll stop, Dave, is same thing on nights. I had a lady that was supposed to be going home. She lived in the outlying communities around Thunder Bay. And I became a nurse because I love people and I love to help people. And so that's why I like nights. It was busy, but a lot of people can't sleep at night in a hospital. So I would go and spend time with them and talk to them. And this lady was so lovely. She was so excited to go home. She had this horrific pain in her stomach. Common thing people come to the hospital for. Couldn't find out what was happening. And I can tell you now, I knew something was off. Like something just didn't feel right. And I kept going back to her room because I knew she was awake. Needless to say, the last time I walked in there, and I'll try not to be graphic, but she had an aneurysm burst. Blood everywhere. Very luckily, that lady was saved. But my whole point is, right? Watching her. Had I not been in there, she wouldn't have grabbed a call bell. And I'm not saying I'm so great. That's not what I'm saying. I think it was a higher power that gave me that touch on the shoulder to say, hey, pay attention is what I'm saying. I know you're going to say something, Dave. I can hear you.
Reading these comments here.
Let's talk about
them. Yeah. Okay, it's CERN. Okay, let me explain this, you guys. So it says, I know David isn't a CERN believer, but I don't think we can discount that the incredible power of CERN can affect our dimensions, especially from 2012 on. No, I do believe that CERN can have effect on the world. I do. I actually do. But what happened when they turned it on, so many people just went free for all and blamed everything on CERN. Everything. That's why. But I know CERN does something. You want to hear something interesting, though? 2012 was supposed to be the end of the world, which actually what it was is just the end of that calendar. It was just the beginning of a new one. We were supposed to go in 2012. The Earth was supposed to go, but things happened in the sky that nobody's talking about why we're not. But if all we know, there's a dimension where the world did end, or the world did go through that catastrophic thing. Because like I said, if you were spared and you wanted to be here for that, you may have been here for that and left and came back again. It sounds so crazy, but it's fun. And I think we should constantly keep entertaining these thoughts in our heads, because they are taking us to places. They might start off real crazy, but eventually we get to where we need to be with these questions. But as far as CERN goes, like I said, I know that CERN has an effect on something, but once again, like I said before, the universe is perfection. It's perfect. Everything happens as it's supposed to. But to us, sometimes it's going to seem strange, as far as
it doesn't explain it though, Dave. Like mirror, mirror on the wall, and now it's changed. The Berenstain Bears. Okay, so did we decide as a collective, as humanity, to switch timelines?
Well, do you know what? I did think about that. I didn't ask enough people because I didn't do some big scientific study. But I had asked people I know, what do they remember those books? Half of them said one thing and half of them said another. And I was like, oh, Jesus. I wanted everyone to agree with me, but that's where I think it comes back to. I think some people, I don't think it's a glitch in a matrix as far as like the matrix is messing up and humans are catching it now. Because trust me, if someone has a matrix going and can do that, they are well aware of any problems that are going on in the matrix. They would be well aware of it. Although those things I do think that there are people jumping timelines and some people are not. You know what I'm saying? So I think some do. Now, that bothers me too, like the Berenstein Bears. I see it the way you see it. You saw it.
There's too many people. And then, like I said, I tried and I worked about 3 hours and I'm still going to keep working. There is something, and I think I figured out how. I would have uploaded these clips for you. So if you want to see some of the stuff we're talking about on TikTok, you may see them on Facebook Shorts too. Look under the hashtag glitch in the matrix or Mandela effect, because I have one video I would have loved to share, and it was sent into Nuke's top 5 on YouTube. This guy, and again, it's so hard to tell deep fakes nowadays with the technology, but this guy sent in, and the thing I like about Nuke's top 5, he's a skeptic. He will try and debunk something, and he will show you what he did or why he did it or how he found out. Like the Chris Watts house where that murder was, or that poor woman that was pregnant with his child and the 2 daughters in the house. And there's been some paranormal activity caught on police cams. It's fascinating, actually, over something so sad. He got a video sent in that they believe that one of the little girls, one of Chris's daughters, spirit was showing up in the video. So this guy, he calls himself Nuke. He did take the time to debunk it for us. So back to this story. This guy, and I don't know what the heck it was, and I believe it was the Berenstein Bears video book. He was taking it and he goes, I don't know what the heck is going on right now. And he was walking through the doorway. I think it was his house or a friend's house. And the A and the E would change as he stepped out of the doorway. Now, Nuke's top 5 never tells you what to believe, too. He always says, is it all an elaborate hoax? You decide. But I trust him enough with following him for so many years that and he'll tell you what he thinks. Like, if he really thinks it's a hoax, he'll tell you. But after everything he did, I don't think he could decide for himself either. Kind of how we started the show, Dave. A lot of stuff we looked at, some things we could debunk, some we couldn't.
Some we can't. I had, for the people listening, it was last year here, as I was sleeping, and I got them in now. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's the earring in back here.
Oh yeah, tell them, Dave. Yeah, tell them. So you had your own experience.
Yeah, see, this is my experience, and this is where I'm like, this is why I say I can't disbelieve it, because this has actually happened to me, these weird things. So these earrings back here, it's before I had these ones up front. I love these earrings, and I woke up one morning and one of the earrings came out. I searched high and low for that earring 4 days. I was desperate because I love that earring. I took off all my blankets. I shook everything. I knew it fell off. I had my earring in when I went to bed. So I shook everything. I looked all over. It was gone completely. So I put the other earring, I took it out because I just didn't want to wear one earring. I took it out and I put it up next to this shelf next to my bed. It was sitting on there for almost a year. One day I was talking about earrings and I went and just got these ears pierced and everything. And I walk into my bathroom and I look down on the carpet and there is the earring. And I thought to myself, okay, one of my cats maybe dragged it off the shelf and played with it. So I picked it up out of the bathroom. I went to go put it on the shelf and there was the other earring. So I now have a matching set of this. So in my eyes, when I'm wearing these now, I was joking to myself. I'm like, one of you guys traveled around other dimensions, didn't you? Now I have an authentic, beautiful pair of earrings, dimensional earrings. These are probably billions of dollars they're worth. But I mean, stuff that did happen to me, and literally, guys, people who don't know me, and Lorilei knows this about me. My little butt will try to debunk everything. Sometimes I don't know
Yes.
why I do that. I just do it because I want to make sure. I do that basically because I want to make sure that anything I ever tell anybody is truth. So I make sure that I can debunk it. If I can't
But
debunk it, I'll
that's
tell.
why where this conversation started, Dave. I said to him, have you been seeing more and more posts between Reddit? Like I said, it's under a hat. Everybody hashtags it. It's glitches in the matrix, or TikTok glitches, or whatever it is, right? Loie Lane from YouTube, and she's on TikTok. She'll also cover a lot of these as well. People will tag her and she'll put them together. So I think that's actually where I saw this. It was about a month and a half, 2 months ago. And she did a whole thing of about 18, 20 different TikToks and YouTube shorts of people telling the story of exactly what you just did, Dave, about your earrings, yet whether it was sunglasses. Somebody had bought this little antique turtle from it was a one of a kind, and it had a stain on it. Like, it was very distinctive. They moved, and all of a sudden they have two. And there's no way it never came in a pair. It's the same thing. It could be, you name it. People are talking about this. And like we started the show, we can't debunk it. It's kind of one of those things you got to take people's words for it. But Dave, you just had your own experience right there.
Yeah, and you know what? Another thing too, and I've thought about this. Once again, this is Dave's theory. This part I'm going to tell you. There are so many people I know, and being a medium, I've talked to a lot of dead people, a whole lot of them, and they were all validated. So to me, they're real dead people. But they will leave signs for people. People say they find pennies, and people will say they find all that. And somebody asked me one day, Dave, how do they do that? So, of course, I went to my spirits and I said, I need to know how you're doing that. And of course, it's very complicated, but it has to do with interdimensional shifting and placing things in a dimension where you'll see it. That was actually already there. And they just get you. I don't know how. I honestly don't know how they get us to switch over to see it. But when you, for instance, I practiced that one fun thing where you put your hand on your heart and you say this 3 times a day. I put my hand on my heart and I just always say, I have money. Money flows freely to me. I just playing with it. But I know how to play with it enough where you have to believe it. If you don't believe it and you just play with it, it's not going to work. I actually believed it. So I sat there on my way to work and I did that. As I got into work and I looked down on the ground in my little space and I walked back and forth, I started seeing pennies, nickels. These are things that are never there. All day long, those little nickels and pennies were there. And it stopped when I stopped doing those things, saying the things. The following day, they weren't there at all, just that day. So I think this is where I want to say I don't think it's a glitch in a matrix, a computer screen, as much as I think it's freely moving through dimensions is how I tend to look at it in my mind. But we can call it whatever you want, really, because if somebody needs to think of it that way as a glitch, that's okay, because they need to relate it to something that they know. Like Lorilei or I, sometimes if we hear weird crap, we don't have to put it into a human sense to analyze it. We just take it at face value, what it is. Or a lot of people
And
have
if
to
I
label.
don't know, and if those of you that have followed any shows I've done in a long time, I call it my proverbial back shelf, because I truly, truly believe that the truth will always reveal itself. It will always come to the surface. I'm still stuck on these airplanes though in midair, and I sent you one with the water that kept moving. Now that could have been photoshopped. I will give it that. These people were driving. Look at the water was flowing as they started. As he kept driving, it looked like it froze, and they'd stop and it'd be frozen, and it would start to flow again. That could have been a trick of the camera. I will give it that. But when you were talking about the stuff that's just appearing out of thin air, how many of you have heard of the Scole experiments? SCOLE experiments. Have you heard of them, Dave?
The skull experiments, where they the skull where they put them in where they went in the basement. Are you talking about that one?
Well, no, it was over in the UK. It was done scientifically. I'm looking it up right now because I forget when it was in 2009.
Didn't they work with a physical medium?
No, there was a bunch of them that did, but they were able to, like, they took old time film from a camera, and they were connecting, they were holding almost like a seance and what have you. If you look it up, it's SCOLE, the Scole experiments, you'll see it. Now, what happened was they have proof, they claim, the box, they filmed it. There's a bit of a documentary on it. They filmed the box. It was locked. It was inaccessible, but they believed they were communicating. They had some mediums, some other people that were sensitive, what have you. There were actual pictures of faces on this film. They had items appear out of nowhere that weren't there. They had all kinds of things happen. And it seemed like that to me, if I look at it now with the knowledge that I have, that because they were aware of the other side, and it seemed that most of them, I'd have to rewatch it, but basically when you're in this field, you start to look at energy and how it works and the principles and what have you. And I think they were focusing on what they wanted and whether spirit complied, whether they were able to manifest it out of another dimension. Because if you break it down, right? Really profound statement from those channels this weekend that really hit me that I never thought about. They were talking about war from the other side and how foolish it is, really, because we are so interconnected. I am me, and I am you. You are you. You are me. We are all a part of each other, right? And the one thing that one of the, I think it was a channel or it was somebody that had a near-death experience, but they talked about the foolishness again, like I said, of war. But then they said, what I do to you, I do to myself. It was a near-death experience, actually. They were talking about a life review and how they experienced it. So what I'm saying is we have the potential for it all. We are also, if we are made, if you believe in your higher power, whatever you call it, and made in that image, we are creators, we are manifestors, we are capable of anything. So like you said, you have to believe in it. You just can't say it. But if you truly believed it, you focused it, and you had a group of people, what could you accomplish? Like this is a very fascinating study, and there's been poo-pooed a lot.
Actually, it was a couple. There was a couple, and they all went. If anybody's listening to this, I believe this is the same one. They all went into, like, it was almost like a cellar. There were no doors, no windows. There was only one door in.
Right.
There were no windows. There was nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It would take. Sometimes they would take a guest down there. Anything. They did it for years. They went down there and had seances and contacted, and they were seeing, horns floating in the air. They were hearing people talking. People were touching.
They got a necklace. I think they got a horn, Dave. I think they did get a horn come out of nowhere.
They were dropping feathers. They watched feathers literally drop out of nowhere, and they just watched them fall to the ground. So, I mean, and this was well documented. There was one person, I believe, who sat on the side as the control. And I always think, and if you ever hear me talk about a control, I always, not in the spiritual sense, but a control is something you'd use while you're trying to find out about something. Like if I do card readings for somebody, or if I do pendulums, when you do pendulum, you do a control reading, which I want to find out if this is yes, if it's right, if it's no, if it's right. So you do that control. They were doing that every session, and all these things still came out. Michelle Pratt asked, "Don't fairies hide things?" Oh, and spirit. Fairies is a different thing. Yes, they hide things. They hide
They
things. I
can.
know they do.
They can.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and spirits can hide things too. And I've had my keys hidden many times.
You're reading
And
my mind. I was just thinking that. Yeah, keys are there. You bend down to put your shoes, tie your shoes up, stand up. Keys are gone, and then
I
you don't go out.
literally
And hour later,
one
they're right where you left them. Where did they go?
one morning I could not find my keys, and I put my I put my keys in the same exact spot every day. Every day when I come home from work,
Exactly.
I don't come home drunk. I don't come home anything. I put my keys in
Yep.
the right place. So I put my
Yep.
keys there. I went about my business that night. The next day, I get all dressed. I
Excuse me.
by the door. I go to grab my keys, and my keys are not there. I literally tore this house up and down
Been there.
looking for those keys. I looked at
Yep.
my bed and everything else, and I tore my bed apart just to come back into that room again, and there they were on the bed. So it's like, okay, they weren't there while I was sleeping, and so I think things can. I don't, to this day, I don't know who did it, nor did I ask. I'm to that point in my life where I just shake my head at spirit and go, "Oh, you." That's it. And that's just how it goes for me.
Yeah.
Now, like what you talked about channeling, I do a lot of channeling, not like the people on TV. If I channel, my voice doesn't really change. Demeanor does change sometimes, but not my voice or anything. Channeling, I believe dimensionally too. That's another one where it's dimensional. I don't think there's like actually someone coming in, because like when I channel stuff or channel right, it feels like somebody's face is coming up behind my head and then looking through my eyes. But
Mhm.
it's still me. But I wonder if they're dimensionally coming over and merging with you instead of doing it out of thin air. I don't even know. It's so crazy. One day I will figure all this out, you guys, and I will write a book and it'll be scientifically backed. But until then, we can only speculate. But I am a
Yeah.
strong believer in a lot of these things.
Well, I always say, like last week, we had a question. I remember this. Could you have more than one walk in? And, we said, well, maybe unlikely, but I guess possibly. Well, the way I always say to people, like people will message me, and I know they message you, Dave, people that do this kind of work, and they'll say, okay, I'm not crazy, but I got something really weird that happened, and they'll discuss it. The first thing I always say is try me, like nicely, but try me. And then I tell them, just because I haven't heard of it doesn't mean it doesn't exist or it didn't happen. And that was your experience. And although we may not have an answer for you right now in this moment, like you said, Dave will find out and write a book about it. No, but what I mean is eventually the truth is going to come to the surface. I really believe it will. I
Yeah.
do.
In
Hmm.
the meantime, when you do watch the glitch videos and all that, watch them with a grain of salt. And you know what? Skepticism is healthy, especially in as Lorilei in our profession, what we do outside of this readings and all that. A little bit of skepticism is healthy. It keeps you grounded while we're here. But that doesn't mean you discount everything. Like I said, I've watched a lot of those videos. If I can't find anything to research or back it up, then I just have to put it as, well, this is what they're saying, and there's a video. That's it. That's plain and
Yeah, but
simple.
we agreed, Dave. We agreed before we went on air. We had a few minutes and we both agreed and we were the same page that can we disprove some of these things that have happened? No. And we can't prove it either.
Yeah,
So it's
that's
one
what
of
I
those
mean. Yeah,
maybe not. We don't know, right?
yeah, that's what I mean. If I look up something and I can't disprove it, then I just have to say, well, I'm going to take it at face value, because people, being me or Laura Lee, we hear a lot of stuff all the time. And
Mhm.
I really can't discount anything, because even when I ask my guides, or I channel stuff and I ask them questions, I'm like, is this true? They say one of the same things they say to me all the time, which is, what they saw with their own eyes is truth for them. So yes, it's true. But
I'm so glad you answered that, Dave. Sorry to cut you off just for a second. I wanted to add this because what I can hear somebody thinking who's either hearing this or will hear this is kind of like when you were joking at the beginning. Well, you two are psychics. You should know this. You should know the answer to this. If you're in communication with your guide, so you kind of go in there, but I wanted to throw that in there with it.
yeah,
What's your
it's
answer?
true. Yeah, we just have to. You can accept things, but you don't have to accept it as truth until you believe it's truth. That's fine. It's
Yeah, but our
okay.
guides don't always give us the answers either. Like they don't.
Yeah, as far as the guides go, I have a guide and it's a running joke all the time. And when he first started talking to me, I would ask certain questions. And one day I kept asking this question over and over. And I heard my guide clear as day, a sound in my ear said, "Does it matter?" And I was like, I was creeped out for a minute. And then I said, "Yes, it matters." So then I got the information. I didn't understand a freaking word of it. I didn't get it at all. And I said, "I don't
And
get
he
this." And
knew that you wouldn't, right?
yeah, he knew exactly what I was going to. He was like, "All right, here it is. This is it." And I was like, "I don't get it." And he's like, "Because you don't need to." And I'm like, "Okay." But they always tell me too all the time, don't disbelieve the odd things. If people's intentions are literally just to tell you what their experiences was, most likely it's probably true. If they're telling you this experience because they're trying to gain something from it, most likely it's probably not true. You know, but then again, who knows? Who knows? Zach had. Go ahead. You can read Zach's
Okay.
question.
Okay, Zach has had when I had a lady that works with MUFON, and she's a friend of mine, Lorraine Fenton, on the Angel Rock, and Zach was there, and he was sharing because Zach has had the most incredible, amazing experiences, and he's got another one for us here. And even Lorian said, I think I got to talk to Zach and have him on, talk to him on the show because he's had, speaking of strange experiences. So he says, I've had a similar experience 10 years ago when I was involved in a car accident. No one was hurt, but it was raining outside. When I went to grab my coat from the car, it was gone. After I received my ticket and left the scene, my coat reappeared. And now I hear the Twilight Zone music for those of us old enough to know what that is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got out of, here's another one. Lorilei, I'm going to let you tell me what your thoughts on this are on this.
Okay.
Because the fact I don't have too many thoughts on this one. I kind of know what I know, but I'm not sure. But I'll tell you the story.
Okay.
So, and I might have kind of told you, but after I had gotten out of the hospital, it was like September 15th, I believe I got out. June, July, August, September 15th. October 31st, I was just barely walking. I was walking, but my mom, who I was hanging out with a lot after my coma, she went to the beach with a friend of hers. So I was really kind of bored. And there's a moped in the garage. And I said to Dad, I'm like, that's my moped, right? Yeah, that's your moped. That's your moped. And I said, can I ride it around? And he didn't really want me to, but he said, if you can ride it around the block, I'll watch you. Then you can ride it around. I said, okay. So I rode it around the block and I was fine. And I got a bright idea in my head. Well, I'm going to go out and do stuff and try to remember crap. So I was driving around and it had rained earlier, but it wasn't like a nasty rain, but it was a hot, sunny day. I was riding my moped, probably going about 30, 35 miles an hour. Sandra Sharp also knows this because I asked Sandra after it happened. I was riding the bike and the lights changed, and maybe because of my brain still messed up, I panicked, and all it did was go from green to yellow, whatever. I panicked and I put my hands on the brakes and I closed them like that real hard right before the intersection. Well, I did not remember, and neither anybody else, the back brakes didn't work, only the front brakes. So when I hit it like that, I hit the front brakes. So therefore, like that, I felt myself go up into the air, and all I said to myself was, "So this is how it ends." So I was like, I just got out of a coma. Now here comes this crap. What the hell is happening? But the funny thing was, after I was saying that, I felt immediately like somebody grabbed onto me, held me, and set me down on the sidewalk. And then I just heard, "Dude, don't move." And I opened my eyes, and here's all these cars stopped, ladies kneeling down in front of me. Apparently, I had been out for like 5-10 minutes already, and out. But some people say, "Oh, it's an angel who got you," whatever. I don't quite know, because the skid marks, how they say it's flipped everything. You'd think my bike would be completely wrecked, and it's not. The bike was not wrecked, and I flew up and I flew into the intersection, which means cars were coming, but yet I didn't get hit by any cars. So I never know. Was that a matrix glitch? It's like, oh, glitch, everything stopped.
No,
Flew off the plane because you're
no.
not supposed to go.
I know this story because you've shared it with me. That's why. But the first time David told me this story, oh my God, I could barely breathe. I was like, "You did what?" Like, I was just horrified. You know what? Okay, so if you're asking what my thoughts are, and I always say to people, I will never tell you exactly what happened and in your experience, because it was your experience. You were the one that knows best. But it's been really cool. I wanted to share this with everybody. And I'll get back to your story, Dave. I don't know about you guys, but I have been noticing over the last few months, especially over the last kind of couple weeks, everybody's gifts seem to be kind of up leveling. And for me, when somebody explains something, it's like I can literally, and clairvoyance is one of my later gifts, meaning seeing, and it's not one of my strongest. But when people explain things to me, it's like a movie all of a sudden starts playing in my mind. So I could literally see what you were just saying, David. And I know I've heard the story before. I truly believe that that was someone in spirit, high vibrational, whether you want to call it an angel, could be, "Hi, baby." It could have been, for all we know, it could have been, benevolent TT. It could have been an ascended master. It could have been an elemental. It could have been anybody, but it was somebody that loved you, was very aware, well, they all are, of what you had just been through with such a traumatic ordeal.
That's what got me
Obviously,
to. That's what
sorry?
got me to think. Sometimes it got me to think after that sometimes maybe accidents do happen. That's why I was saying, where I was to take it back to when I said, if the world is perfect, there couldn't be a glitch. But
Okay,
maybe
so let's start there. Okay, so what I was going to say, whomever it was on the other side knew, for whatever reason, whether it was an accident, which I find hard to believe, but it could be, because we got to remember that we make agreements with other people. So there very well could have been something that could have happened as a result of that accident, meaning, for all you know, right? Whomever came to help you, whomever witnessed it, maybe they were meant to meet. And without that accident, you wouldn't, you know what I mean? It would never have happened. It was preordained, but you were never meant to be severely injured in the accident. Does that make sense? So it's not really a glitch. It may
you
have
want to
been
hear.
something like an important moment in time where you helped somebody else by what you went through.
If you want a little bit more validation on that, I had asked Sandra, who's on here today. I had asked Sandra why, what happened, whatever. And I think, Sandra, you mentioned to the same effect that it was going to happen anyway. You were safe. It was just something that needed to happen. But it's weird when stuff like that. That's why I think maybe, now to get back to the other part, maybe we're supposed to start seeing all these things. Maybe that's what the Great Awakening is about. Not to go into that, but maybe the other side going, we're going to make
Maybe.
more of this stuff visible to everybody. So, and see what happens. Because I really do. I think ETs do that all the time. They're like,
I
well,
don't
that's for
normally say ETs, and I even said it could have been a benevolent ET, but and I've never talked to Sandra before the show or anything like that. I don't know. One day maybe I'll know Sandra personally, but I've just met her through the show. So I didn't know that you had discussed this with Sandra, but I really feel that rather than it being a glitch in the matrix, and then people will start saying, well, what? Now our whole life is preordained. No, but I believe for whatever reason that situation in that time was meant to happen. And I believe that that's why you weren't seriously hurt, because you should have been, especially after what you have been through. And I told you that the first time you told me that story. So it almost feels like you were assisting either somebody else or two people to meet or something to happen as a result of that situation that you went through.
Yeah, it had to be. It was a funny thing. Well, I look back, you guys. I always look back and laugh at bad stuff that happens to me because why not? You know, oh,
I,
that's a cute. It resembles a cat my family had many years ago. Her name was Snow, and she was great at catching scorpions. Well, thanks, Zach. This is Angel, and he's really good.
Angel.
Hell out of me, but I love him.
Angel's one of our mascots. We got Emmy. Emmy's behaving herself, and sometimes my little booger in the back sometimes shows up. He likes to be a ham. Like I remember one time I think it was the Angel Rock. I don't think you were, because I think I was on my own, but he was behind me, the little monkey. I didn't even know he was, and he was like doing all kinds of antics on the pillow, and people are making all these comments with the LOLs, and I didn't even know he was there. I wanted to put Jane's comment up, but I also wanted to put Zach's about commenting on Angel. Do you want me to read it, Dave, or you want to read it?
Go right ahead.
Okay, so Jane says, I believe that everyone has their own truth. I agree with that as well. Just because you have a truth for you, it may not be true for someone else, to my knowledge. And then she mentions there are 11 universal laws, 11 universal truths.
Yeah,
There's,
the 1111 angel number being universal laws, the universal truth. There's actually and I didn't know this either. I just recently discovered these about 4 years ago. There's like 50, 60, 70 universal laws that govern this planet. But there's the main laws. And the 11 you're speaking of, the main laws, it's like those are the ones that everybody notices and needs, like the law of belief, the law of germination, the law of polarization, the law of correspondence, the law of all those ones. But there's tons of them. And I think, and for me, I think the glitch in the matrix falls right under the law of belief, because that law
okay.
states if you strongly believe in something, so it is. So in your field of perception, that is what you are going to get. That's why I tell people. I made a video the other day. A lot of people will go on like a haunted house investigation. Some will go in just with like paranormal people, like who've been doing this for a long time. Most of them don't go in there with any expectation. They go in there going, there's something happening here. Let's go find out what it is. And that's it. But there are some that go in and they believe a certain bad thing. And that's exactly what they're going to get. So, and then another person could believe in there's nothing happening and they won't have an experience at all. So I think to go back, to glitches and, however we want to say it, I don't think, to go on the record, I don't think of the world as a matrix or I just don't think of it in that terms. Although I think it's a good descriptive word for people. It really is to say matrix or computer.
Okay, so matrix. Do I think it's a matrix? No, but if we get down to the microcellular level, everything is made up of protons, neutrons, let's call them atoms, right? And again, like I said, this was really profound, you guys. I'm going to tell you about this channel. Maybe you won't find it, it's in the eye of the beholder, right? That I looked at this and found it very it really resonated. I shared it with a few other like-minded people because I thought, well, maybe it's just me. They found it quite profound too. But okay, so the one person in particular And again, it may have been a channel. I really looked at a bunch of near-death experiencers as well as this. And they were talking about that, breaking it down into the atoms, okay, but also that in this universe, on this planet, here in the 3D existence, we have agreed as a collective that a table is a table and a table is solid, or a chair is a chair, the floor, whatever, right? So that is why it's so. Whereas, maybe that's why ghosts can walk through walls, and I'm using a term generally, without
Mhm.
being politically correct. Okay. A spirit can walk through a wall, or ETs can walk through a wall, or whatever, because on their planet, maybe they see it all as just energy and atoms. So again, is it a label? Is it just the label is the matrix? But to me, I still don't have a good enough answer, and I'll be patient. I know one day it will come, that I know for a fact that there are things that have been caught on video, and there's too many people in the video. It's not from a movie, that we are seeing these strange things. So why is it bleed? Is it a hologram to get us doing shows about this, talking about this, that we think it's a matrix, that we think it's all this stuff? It could be a variety of things. I don't know, but I still am not sure. I don't get hung up on names anyways.
Yeah, it is really hard, and I think that's, but to call it, I think when these movies come out, like The Matrix and all that, or horror movies and all that, a lot of times there's a little truth to every movie, a little bit. But if you opened your eyes to hear, like red pill, blue pill, whatever, you made a good point, Lorilei. I got to remember how you put that. But if your perception here is that of somebody who says on the agreement, and you're absolutely correct on the agreement, the world comes in with an agreement. We agreed that there is mountains. We agreed there's an ocean. We agreed that there's things in the ocean. We agreed this is a table. This is a chair. These are sit. This is solid. We all agree that if we smash our head on the floor, it's going to hurt. That's just how it's going. This is because we believe it. But like you said, they're the ones who are awakened, or the ones who are waking up. That's why I tell people to remember, once you can look past all those things, that's where things start changing. That's why I think that people are starting to see glitches in a matrix, is because they're becoming more open to seeing outside what we're told is solid and not solid. Because you are absolutely correct again, Lorilei, that everything is made of atoms. So like my phone, I agree that my phone is solid. But if we were in a 5D world or whatever, we would just put our hand through this, because of the fact that we would know this is just atoms compressed together, and so is my hand. I can do that right through that, but that's not what we agreed upon, but I do think that's why there are so many more sightings coming out. And I do know that people are getting really good with camera tricks, and they're getting really good with the deep fakes, but there are some legitimate videos out there, because I've seen some of them and I've tried to research them and I can't find it.
Oh, I got one for you. I got one for you that I didn't send you. I didn't get it. I didn't want to bombard poor David. Sent enough, and then on TikTok too. So there was a guy, again, TikTok, I happened to be watching, and he goes, "Oh my Lord." And those were his words. I caught a woman that is in he didn't call it a feedback loop. It's a glitch in the matrix. He goes, "Watch this." And it was a 3-part video. And the woman would do exactly the same thing. She'd come off the highway. She'd come and park right next to his vehicle. She'd be in the driver's seat. She'd get out. She'd go over to the passenger side, get in, get out, go back into the driver's side, do back up her seat, do a bunch of stuff, pull, and she'd drive. And she kept doing this over and over and over. She didn't acknowledge anybody around her. She looked like she was in a feedback loop, if you will, or a glitch in the matrix. He goes, "Now watch this, y'all. It's going to happen again. Next video," because I guess 3-minute clips, right, on TikTok. He goes, "This time when she comes, I'm going to interact with her." So he does. And he had the kindness not to show her face. And he went over to speak to her. And he said, "Ma'am, I'm not being nosy, but I've been here and I've been noticing, this is the fourth or fifth time this has happened, and you do exactly the same thing. Are you okay? Do you need some help? And I couldn't hear what she said, but she did respond appropriately with a no, thank you very much. And then he proceeded to keep pushing it. Could I pray for you? Can I pray for you? Jesus loves you and what have you. Nothing wrong with that, but we don't cram. I just don't. I don't cram my beliefs down anybody's throat, and sometimes it can be distasteful to certain people. And I felt sorry for this young woman because she then disappeared because she didn't want to deal with it, right? But my whole point was that looked like a glitch in the matrix, but this gentleman, for whatever reason, and I believe it was for good reasons, stopped that loop. And so it would look like it was probably, hi, baby, more of an OCD or obsessive compulsive type thing. But again, right, he took the time to watch, document, and observe, and very kindly, which I do believe with love in his heart. Okay, regardless of what his beliefs were trying to, he really was coming from a good space. He was able to find out what the issue was. Whereas somebody else, like if there was a whole whack of people documenting this, right? People can be insensitive. Look what we caught, somebody in the matrix. So again, like you said, Dave, we either got to research it, observe it, think about it, do whatever we got to do. Because sometimes, it may walk and talk and look like a duck, but it really isn't a duck, right?
Yeah, sometimes it's really not. Sometimes it's odd. Oh, look at this. Sorry, guys, you got my kitty here. What does Jane?
I
Jane
was just
says,
going to add for Sandra. Sandra said,
yeah,
ooh, the fun we could have with hypnosis. Yes, we could. So Jane says, you want to read it?
yeah. Jane says microcellular level is why there can be healing at that level. All right, F. Yeah. Sound vibration, no time or space. They are psychic surgeons still just out there in that one.
I've had psychic surgery done. I've had it done. I've never told anybody that.
I believe in some psychic surgeries. I do, because I saw I did a lot of research years ago on it, and there are some
I've had it done twice.
Twice. Yeah.
And it was crazy both times. Can I say it fixed anything?
Yeah.
Nope. But I think it cleared some trauma from my childhood. I also believe that maybe that was sort of the impetus to start really reopening my pathways to recognizing the gifts that have always been around and I have used. Like I've shared a little bit here, just a minute sample of some of the stuff, but I've used them my whole life. I just never took notice the way I'm aware of it now.
Yeah. I believe in psychic surgery. I don't know the results of it. There aren't a lot of them around.
I'm still out on the jury.
Yeah, maybe in another country they have them. But I've watched videos, and these are videos before the time of deep fake, where it was just absolutely amazing. There wasn't blood or anything, but it was just the way they were going through things, and for me, I'm just like you, Lorilei. The jury's still out on it.
So for me with psychic surgery, nothing was removed. Like we've seen some of the stuff down in South America, which looked very astounding. And I know some of that has been debunked. What this was, and one was with a naturopathic doctor looking at being a chronic pain sufferer, that she was convinced we would be able to remove it and recognize when nothing had budged, that after a couple months that there had to be a little bit deeper component. And there was, with childhood, parents do the best that they can, but sometimes we come out with some pretty deep wounds. And my whole point was, she asked me if I'd be open to it. And I didn't have a clue what this was, but I trusted her. It was very profound with what I experienced in the way of emotions, in colors, sensations, you name it. And then the other person I had it with was somebody locally here who tried to help us paranormally, and one of the first people, very, very gifted. And I can tell you guys, holy cow, was the energy moving in that room. She had one of those paper lanterns, no fan, and it's swinging and turning, and the colors I saw, like, and there was no drugs involved. I promise I don't do drugs, but it was crazy. Now, again, was there profound change afterwards? No, but I feel like some of the stuff I maybe dealt with in childhood had been shifted somewhat. Just my thoughts.
The same way you are, the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had any psychic surgery done, but no, I couldn't. You know what I wanted to tell you? This is funny. Why Angel came in. There's something weird about these three cats that I have too. None of us can pinpoint the day they were born or agree on the month they were born, even though my parents, my brother, all at their house, and me always say a different month. And to some of them, my cats would be like 8 months old. And I'm like, no, they're about a year as far as I can remember. But I was telling them, this is where I was when these baby kittens were born. And they're like, no, they were already here. I'm like, no, they weren't. I know because I have it documented. But this is like something that's not happening to me. I know how old the cats are when they have them. But my parents and everybody else, they cannot pinpoint the day. They are off by months. So I don't know if this they have terrible memories or because they don't know, but they all agree on one thing. I agree on another, but I have the paperwork for them. So I'm like, yeah, this is when I got them. This is when I took them for their shots. This is when I had them fixed. This is when they're like, well, no, they were too young to have fixed then. I'm like, no, they weren't. I had them fixed. Here's the paperwork.
They live at my house.
Yeah.
I'm the cat dad.
Weird stuff can happen. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I say this to anybody's listening. If anything, whether you believe it or not, I think the world is such a cool, fascinating place. We shouldn't really bitch about it too much or say how bored we are with stuff because there is a lot out there. And all you need to do is open your eyes and start looking for it. You know, the world isn't just cut and dry. So maybe there is a matrix. Maybe there isn't a matrix. Maybe it's a simulation. And like Lorilei said earlier, our guides don't always tell us everything. They don't.
No, they don't.
Some of it's not meant for us to be known. In us knowing it might change our lives too much, and they're not allowed to change our lives.
Same reason why we come in with spiritual amnesia. And again, this Alex and for those of you who just joined us, Debbie, in case you didn't hear me, I gave you a shout out too. Okay, so for example, I'm going to say this name again. It's called Level Soul Podcast on YouTube. Check this guy out. Now, he asks a lot of the same questions. At first, I went, gee, that's kind of disrespectful, kind of like you're not trusting what you're receiving. And then all of a sudden, maybe it was from my guides, I realized why he does it. He's comparing, like, if you will, his own research to see, okay, this person apparently is working with this collective, or this person has had this experience as a near death. And when I ask you similar questions, what are your answers if you both believe you've been in contact with the other side? And not in a mean way, but just to see, like, to test what he's receiving. I think that's why he's doing what he's doing.
I do that all the time. When they give me something, I go research it. Mm-hmm. I just do because I want to make sure, you know, I'm getting still right answers because I always laugh at myself. I always laugh at my guys. I'm like, you know, at any moment you could not be there and then it's just my head talking, right? They're like, you know, and then we have a chuckle and a laugh about it. But
well, yeah, he asked that. Okay, so he's asked people this, like, because people always seem to ask the same questions, and you know they do. Why do we have to come here with spiritual amnesia? Why does it have to be so painful? Why do bad things happen? So there was really profound, interesting answers. But what really came across collectively, whether someone was being channeled, even that was interesting. Like, some people trans-channeled, some people just stepped out of the way. They knew everything that was going on, but they moved they brought their higher self in just to be able to use the voice box, if you will. They remembered everything. Then there were others that didn't remember a thing, but they weren't being trans-channeled. Like, everybody does it different, right? But whole thing. Oh, go ahead, Dave.
No, we got that little delay. No, I agree with you. Everybody channels differently. Everybody does that stuff differently. It's even like mediums or psychics or healers. One size does not fit all. Everybody's got something different that's given to them and
Mm-hmm.
how to work. What did Jane says? You can also get into Jerry Willis type healing.
I know what she's
Who's
talking about. So you're right. But I think what was so interesting for me again, and I strongly encourage if you've got some of these questions and they're not the be all to the end all. If you find it as a springboard and it really resonates with you, keep digging, keep looking, see what feels true to you. Because listening to these people about the fact, like, yes, you said Jerry Willis, who has incredible healing abilities. There's many that do. But what was so beautiful to hear, and it was as a collective, not together, different times, different space, whatever, different people, but we are all able to do it all. Now, it doesn't mean we're all going to be all stars at everything we do. That's just not how the human body works, right? A human whatever, but we can get pretty good with practice. But the whole thing was that they were talking about that when we tell, like they were even talking about the word can't, that when we say the word can't, what that really means, and if we're honest, I had to agree, you step back, there's either fear, either that we're not worthy enough or we don't deserve it or whatever it may be, because we really can do anything we set our minds to and believe it and feel kind of like what you said, Dave. You can't just say it, you got to believe it.
Yeah, you got to believe these things. And that's, once again, the subjects we've been talking about tonight, they might not all be able to validate scientifically, but that doesn't make them untrue.
Mm-hmm.
It's, somebody's out there and they're listening to this. If you want to know if it's true, get your butt out there and start researching it, because we're all waiting to I'm always open to what anybody says about anything,
Me too.
I would just want to hear it. Should we do our unpredictable, predictable reading?
David, you were reading my mind. I was just thinking that. I'm thinking, because guys, look at how quick this goes by. We got like 15 minutes, maybe 18 minutes. So if you've never been here before, I always give credit where credit is due. And I say, Dave has the best sense of humor, and he'll say something kind of facetiously, and then we end up using it. Like the pajama party. Like, so grab your jammies every week, guys. Goes along with the bed theme. And because Dave's got to get up early tomorrow. So we have the unpredictable, predictable reading. That means sometime during this 2-hour period, something you ask or a comment that you share, we'd be happy to share what we pick up from spirit and be able to share with you, grabbing a card, whatever it may be. So if you've got a question, please post it, unless somebody's lighting up for you there, Dave.
We'll sing the theme of Jeopardy for a minute. I'm seeing.
Well, sometimes what we do too, Dave, we will do it. We will just put out a reading, pick a card for anybody that spirit knows who's going to see this and listen to this. So we always tell people, if you hear this, even if we pick somebody in the live audience, you go, holy crap, that could have been exactly for me. Guess what? It was for you. Right?
We could do. Remember that I thought it was so hilarious. Oh, it's the 700 Club. And you guys, I'm sorry, I'm going to bash the 700 Club. I don't care what anybody says. That thing made me laugh. It made me laugh. They used to go on there and they used to close their eyes and go, there's a woman in Massachusetts. Her name is Mary. The Lord is healing you. It's healing you. Your left side is becoming equal to your right side. You will no longer live. Mary, he is healing you. Okay, they did this every freaking week. And it's like, okay, that is so general. Of course, there is somebody named Mary with an owie on her left side who's going to put something together in Massachusetts. But what I'm saying is we're getting general. That's not what Lorilei is talking about. When we do these,
I thought you were going to say, Jesus told me I need a jet. So if you're hearing this, send in the money.
There's a man in Iowa named Frank. He's wanting me to get a jet. I hear him. The good Lord speaking him through me in my head. I want that jet. He can't give it. Yes. You're supposed to send me money. Okay.
Yes.
We I'm making fun of it, but when we do a collective reading, is what Lorilei talking about, where spirit knows, we have an
Can't you
intention
just wait for Halloween, you guys, with Dave? Sorry, Dave, I had to throw that in there. Go ahead.
I'm going to be a televangelist for Halloween.
Yes.
I know.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're right.
So when we
And
pull
he
the
is
card
very
for
much.
the collective, it comes with intention that whoever needs to hear it's going to hear it. So
Thank you.
sorry about
Yes.
the generality, but we're not going to be as general as those people.
And we won't tell you that Fred in Kalamazoo said that we both need a jet or anything like that.
Oh my goodness. Look at this.
So,
Okay. I pulled the
so Jane says, I have my jammies on too. Great slumber party. I think general card reading is good too. Well, we can do that for you guys tonight.
I pulled a general card reading right now for everybody. And you guys who's listening, show up in your pajamas next week. And if you want us to tell a ghost story at some point, let us know. We'll look one up and we'll read it to you. And then we'll talk about ghosts. What the hell? Because I
Yeah.
love ghosts.
Yes. And bring a
I just
snack. Bring a snack, bring a drink, get comfy, get cozy, and let's have fun. Oh, Debbie's in her jammies too. Jane's in her jammies. See, that's why it goes right along with the thing at the foot of the bed, right? Get in bed and get your jammies.
Well, kids, I was feeling a little dragony today. So it's dragon energy for you guys. Yay. So
We
this is
were
the
too. We were
huh?
too. Leanne and I, we were too. We were talking
Yeah.
about dragons today.
Well, this is for all you right now. This is for all you guys watching in the comment section, or anybody who comes across this. If this resonates with you, just go ahead and hop on it because it's a beautiful message all the time. So it was air and fire dragon. Air makes fire big. So they're talking about creativity and harnessing your passion, which is what you're supposed to be doing. And we just talked about this earlier, becoming open to everything. That's what these dragons are telling you, to literally be open, be creative, see the unseen. And if you do see the unseen, know that you saw it, because there's no such thing as the unseen. There's actually no such thing as nothing. Even nothing is something, always. So, anybody who's out there, whatever you're doing in your life, grab onto that passion that you keep throwing off and just see it, feel it, and do it. You'll shift those dimensions and you'll see a glitch in the matrix, and next thing you know it, you'll buy that new house or whatever you want to do. But that would be the message from the collective. They really want everybody to start seeing beyond what the physical eyes are seeing.
I love it. And this card dropped out of my deck. It's a newer deck. I got Kyle Gray's Angel Oracle deck. I've been wanting that for a while. So I was shuffling, and the card that came out, Transformation, kind of goes along with Dave's message. But what I was getting, and Sandra says she loves the dragon deck. I do too. So with Transformation, what I was getting from Spirit is that collectively we are shifting, okay, with the energy. So be prepared that with transformation sometimes, and it almost, we see this flame in this picture, right? Some things that metaphorically need to burn to the ground, be moved out of place, right? To make room for the new to move in. But also be mindful at this time when this is happening, okay? Because I also feel like our emotions are kind of turmoily, if you will. They're kind of all over as they're settling, because I really do feel like we're almost having an up leveling, if you will, and we're moving forward. And the more forward we're moving as a collective, the faster it's going, right? It may feel like everything's all over the place. It's kind of chaosy. Other places in the world, though, feeling very separate, and I've talked to many people, they think that everything is like all is quiet. They're waiting for the other shoe to drop, and I've heard this from many people. So I think we are right in the midst, just at the cusp of a transformation, a positive transformation, including, I've been feeling this collectively for people, an up leveling of gifts. Say you weren't sure what the gifts are that you have, pay attention information. Pay attention to the signs, the symbols all around you. Okay. Now remember, when you think that you're waiting, it's too quiet. I've been hearing from people. Then make the noise that you want to hear. Follow joy. Follow your heart. Okay. You don't have to wait for that shoe to drop. You can you can drop your own shoe. You can put a net out for the shoe. What I'm saying metaphorically is you are the master of your own destiny. You create what you want to happen. You don't have to wait for everybody else. And don't forget, Spirit has really been giving me this. We have forgotten who we are, who we really are. If you're not sure, like I said, we talked about a few things to maybe take a peek at. Anything that resonates, maybe follow up on it, do some research. Lastly, ultimate answer is love. And if you're not sure what direction you're going in, maybe you're feeling stuck, maybe you're not feeling like a transformation is coming, you can never go wrong with following what brings you joy. And that's my card reading for you. Whomever's
Yeah.
hearing that needs to hear it tonight. Mm-hmm.
I do agree with the always follow the path of least resistance.
Thank you. Yes. I was
Always.
thinking that, and did it come out? No, but I was thinking that you were absolutely right.
Yeah,
So,
you just
but you hear
do that.
this, right, Dave? Like people have been feeling stuck, or they're just
Yeah, the world is
unsettled.
speeding up. I mean, if you look at it, COVID was 2020, and that's when we all got stuck in the house. It's 2000. It's going to be 2000. It's 2000. It's going to be it's 2023 now. That was like almost 3 years ago, and it's like it happened yesterday. But time is speeding up too. So that's what you said about the world changing and shifting and everything. That's a big part of it. Time speeding up. People are getting more noticing more things. We're seeing glitches and matrices and weird things happening and all that. It's really quite an exciting time to be here. And as soon as you can embrace that stuff, your life is just going to be wild in a good way.
Yeah, and the thing is, right, Dave, like especially where I live in Canada, we hear a lot of really very negative news, possibly compared to where things are going on, depending where you are geographically. Even myself, sometimes the first thing I will start to feel is like, oh my God, no, and a place of fear. And then I got to remind myself, all we ever really have is now, and that I gotta do a little check-in, right? Never mind how important, especially I've really been working on grounding, getting grounded when things feel chaotic or just not quite so steady. And then the other thing I got to remind myself is I am all as well now in this moment. Anything can happen in the future. Anything could shift. We could shift the timeline. We could do anything. So that's what I have to remind myself.
Well, I've understood why these people want to write these miserable futures for themselves. You know, it's like, why? That's not here. You don't know. Live this moment, dude. Live this moment. And then when the next moment comes, live that one. All things are temporary. They're really
That's right.
all right.
And we go on forever.
I think that's pretty much it for us tonight. It's 5 to 9.
Yes.
Anybody listening, if you would like to get hold of me or know more about me, you can go to my website. It's called They Whisper to Me. If you want to write to me or Lorilei with for ideas for the show or my podcast or her podcast, you can write to me at david@thewhispertome.com. You can follow me on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Medium David Hanzel. Take it away, Lorilei.
Thank you. Stay tuned, you guys. The Outer Realm is coming up with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. If you ever want to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me on facebook.com/The Angel Rock, whether that's a show idea, like Dave said, guest suggestion. I do healing work, mentoring. I do psychic, Akashic records, mediumship, whatever. We throw it all in and whatever you need, we pull it in, whatever spirit says and you need. Also, I've got 2 groups on Facebook, Paranormal University for all things paranormal, Angel Rocker Tribe for all things kind of spiritual, whatever, kind of a mix of both, I guess. Monday night, I will be back here right on UPRN, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with another hosting, it's a couple from the network in Newton. They're called the Allens, and I believe the show is called The Allens Investigate. They're from, like I said, the UK. They're involved in the paranormal, and Shona is absolutely beautiful. Gary's great too, but Shona is a Marilyn Monroe impersonator. They are absolutely lovely, and they will be my guest on Monday night, so I hope you'll tune in. So thank you. Love you all. Love you, Dave. So it's official. We're doing a pajama party every week, right?
Pajama party now on Thursdays from 7 to 9 at the thing at the foot of the bed.
That's right. So Dave, are we ready? Can we do it without, shall we count down?
We have a delay.
Okay.
Let's
you want to count or you want me to?
What's at the foot of your
bed? There you go. We got closer. We got closer.
I told you guys that last time. The day we get it right, I'll pick somebody from here and give them a free reading. Like
me too. I'll join you with
you can book one. But until then, you're just gonna have to keep rooting for us.
That's right, everybody. Have a great weekend. We will see you next week. Thanks again. Bye.